Association for Middle Level Education Executive Board, Eastern University, and Jack Berkemeyer Consulting, we welcome you to the Strategies to Survive and Thrive in a Virtual Teaching Environment. This evening, it's a great pleasure to introduce to you our guest speakers. First of all, Judy Brook, who is our local expert on all of our founding fathers and the research that goes right along with them. Judy has a great background in Pennsylvania education, has been a leader not only on the state level, but also internationally. One of PAMLE's great friends, Jack Berkemeyer. He comes from Denver, Colorado, and I don't know if you're still out there or not, Jack. You're somewhere right now in the world. He's an internationally renowned speaker, humorist, and author. Jack is a great friend of PMLE. I think you're going to enjoy what he has to say tonight. He's going to be talking about his new book for PAMLE. It's so nice to have you with us. This evening, we have about 87 of our 150 plus registrants, and that's just terrific. We're so glad to have you here. We have a lot of college students with us. So for those of you that are rising educators, we're very glad that you are with us, and we want to be supportive of you. If you're not currently a member of PAMLE, I strongly suggest that you go to the website, take a look, and join in for all of the things that you can receive from both AMLE and PAMLE as a member. Without any further ado, it's my pleasure to turn the moderating of this session over to Gail Heinemeyer. Gail is well known not only in Pennsylvania for her leadership, but also with AMLE and the work that she's done recently with AMLE 20 and the summer camp. Gail?
Thank you, Paul. I apologize to those of you from the western part of the state who may be Pittsburgh Pirates fans, but those of us on this side of the state are Phillies fans, and some of us are diehards. Just a reminder about some norms for the webinar. If you would keep your microphone on mute, but if we do reach that point where we want to have some participation from the audience in asking questions, we will ask you to unmute your microphone. You can use the chat or the Q&A feature to ask a question, and those tools can be shown at the bottom of your screen on your toolbar. We will have an opportunity at the conclusion of the presentation to answer those questions. And I would remind you all, please be an active listener. Think about the information that Jack and Judy will present and how that can be used in your classroom or school. What are our objectives for tonight's program? One, we want to show you the connections between the strategies for virtual teaching and this we believe. We want to describe the beliefs that were held by the founders of middle level education, because those are the individuals who really laid the groundwork for this we believe and the edition that has just been released called The Successful Middle School. We want to talk about the importance of instructional strategies that reflect the needs of young adolescents. Jack is going to share with you some strategies that you can use for virtual teaching and learning, and we'll give you some resources that hopefully you'll be able to incorporate in your own classrooms. So I want to begin by mentioning a little bit about the Successful Middle School, This We Believe. It is the belief that an education for young adolescents has to meet these 5 attributes: that it needs to be responsive, it needs to be challenging, it needs to be engaging, empowering, and equitable. So those are sort of the overarching attributes that we see in an essential middle school. Our connections to This We Believe. This we believe is divided into 3 general areas, beginning with culture and community. And we know that all educators who work with middle level really need to respect and value and understand what young adolescents are all about. That we have set up organizational structures that support purposeful learning and meaningful relationships. And Jack will give you some ideas as to how you can form those relationships, even in a virtual setting. And the fact then that the policies that are employed are student-centered, unbiased, and fairly implemented. These gentlemen are often referred to as the founding fathers of middle level education. And all of the things that we do today can really be traced back to some of the research and the beliefs and the practices that they saw were really important in terms of addressing the needs of young adolescents. So gentlemen like William Alexander, who is considered the father of middle level education, Al Orff, Don Eichhorn, who is Pennsylvania's own and pioneered the middle level concept in the Upper St. Clair School District, Conrad Tepfer, who was really ahead of his time in advocating for social justice, children's rights, and curriculum reform. The first president of the National Middle School Association, now known as AMLE, was Gordon Vars. And of course, the conscience of middle level education, John Lounsbury. So the research that these gentlemen began back in the 60s really laid the groundwork for what we know successful middle schools should look like. And they published the first position paper in 1982, which identified 10 characteristics. And I just want to share with you a little bit the evolution of this, we believe, because it's now going through 5 revisions. So from 1982 to 1995, we then went up to 12 characteristics and added 2 more things that research now showed us were important in identifying and addressing needs of middle level. By 2003, that edition of this, we believe, now identified 16 characteristics. And if you need some backing when you're trying to implement some of these things, there were companion books known as Research and Resources that supported the information in this, we believe. Once again, the next revision occurred in 2010. The keys to educating young adolescents. And if you look at all of these, the through line goes back to those founding fathers and what they had done originally. This is the most recent edition, The Successful Middle School, This We Believe. It is the paper that best articulates the middle school concept. And I use the term school loosely, really middle level. Anybody that is in a school that basically has kids from really grade 4, maybe up through grade 8, can be looked at as middle level. So the concepts that are explained in here are really the things that lay the groundwork for you to have an organization that addresses the needs of young adolescents. I'd like to now pass this over to Judy Brugge for some founder's advice.
Welcome to everybody. We're so delighted that you're here. There are now 98 of you joining us, and especially welcome to the college students. You're our future. We're relying on you. I was fortunate enough to study with and work with the founders while they were going through all of their research and their arguing and their just trying to figure out what it was that an effective middle level education would be that was based on the needs and characteristics of the kids. And with each one of these webinars, what I've tried to do is go through all of their early work, which I'm so glad I've saved, to try to find out what are some of the relationships to the particular topic that we're talking about. I'm not going to take a lot of time because I know most of you are here for Jack Berkemeyer. If I were here, I would be here to listen to Jack Berkemeyer. But what these guys would have said was whatever you do in your practice, base your practice on the research. That we can't just fly by the seat of our pants and do what we think feels right or looks good or whatever. We have to go back and keep up on the research. And that's what's so nice about This We Believe. All of these editions of it are based clearly in research. And when I get to the next slide, I'm going to give you another site with some really good research. Second is, Gail mentioned this, building meaningful relationships. And I know how difficult that must be in a virtual setting when you're not even able to look the kids right in the eye and you're saying, you know, Joyce, are you even here? Are you here? Where are you? Somebody said it's almost like a seance, everybody looking to see who's there and who's not, and can you hear me? So just some ideas of how we go about building those relationships, not only between the adults and the kids, but the kids and other kids. Because that's the only way we're going to be able to get kids to understand each other, feel better about themselves, stop bullying, all of that. So I would say, and the founders have said, the relationships come before the curriculum. We can't get to the curriculum unless the kids trust us, trust each other, trust the system. We have to realize that kids and educators are going to make mistakes, especially now with what we're going through. It's all new to everybody. So give yourself some grace. You know, we're going to screw up. The kids are going to screw up. You just look at it and say, okay, well, that didn't work. It's time to move on. We'll do something else. So don't be too hard on yourselves, and don't be too hard on the kids either. Next is just understanding that the kids are unsure of themselves, even when it's not turbulent times. This is an age where the kids are leaving their childhood behind, but they're not quite adults. They don't know who they are. They want to be kids one day. They want to be teenagers the next day. They want to be adults the next day. And they don't know what causes each of them. They're trying to figure out their sexuality. They're trying to figure out where they fit in the world. They're trying to figure out how does the world work? How do things all fit together? Now you add to that the virus, you add to that what's going on as well with the with all the political upheaval and so on. So again, giving yourself some grace and understanding that the kids may not be calm and reasonable every single day. I know I'm not. I've been yelling at the television quite often, even when I'm by myself. The next one is to give them choices. Because they're going through these turbulent times themselves inwardly, they need to see that they can make good, rational choices. Understand, this is related to the last one, there is no one right way. There is no one size fits all. So if you try to reach all of them the same way, there's going to be a bunch of them who are not being reached. So try doing things with going into other rooms. You know, you can do this, but how would you like to reach these objectives? Asking them to give input so that they're learning how to be a learner. So the next slide is the other research. If you've not been on this site, I highly recommend it. Most of the stuff they have is free for educators. I've downloaded stuff. I go there all the time. The Search Institute has done years and years, longitudinal, excellent research on the developmental assets of young children, early adolescents, and older adolescents, and what they need in order to become full functioning, responsible citizens. And lately they've started to really work on what makes relationships and how do we help to develop relationships. So there's lots of good practical advice at that site, and I highly recommend that you go there and look through it. And if ever you need some suggestions of resources, PAMLE has all kinds of resources, AMLE has resources. Jack Berkmeyer knows everything there is to know, so you just email him and he can give you all of the answers. So that being said, my goal was just to make that connection to the founders who I was so blessed to work with. And now I'm going to turn it over to the king of education currently, Mr. Jack Berkmeyer. Yay.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you so much. And I want to thank, obviously, the Pennsylvania Association for Middle Level Education. Truly, you know, without you, no one would probably know who I am. And so I appreciate that. And Gail and Judy, thanks for talking to us about our founding fathers. I am truly here as a middle level advocate and a middle level person because of those, but also because of my friendship with you, Judy, and obviously with Gail, Paul, and Bruce. Thank you all very, very much. Okay, see, that was the sucking up portion of the show. So that's over and done. And now I can move on to, oh wait, shameless plug. So we're going to talk today about this lovely little workbook that I put together, which is how to do virtual teaching, even if you have a face for radio. how ironic that I would choose that topic, because yes, I do have a face for radio. And if I pause at any point in time during this conversation, it's because I think you're laughing. All right, so I'm going to talk about a couple things. First of all, how many of you are like me? And by the way, when I gossip, I lean in. This is like my new thing. Like when I gossip in the virtual world, I lean in. How many of you are like me? You just kind of woke up on March 15th and you just kind of were like, what the hell is going on? Like you literally were confused by what was happening in the world. You were lost. You went into a bunker. The last thing I remember truly was we were finally over Baby Shark and we were trying to figure out what to do for spring break. Like that's all I remembered. And then next thing you know, I'm in a bunker. And then I ventured out. And I have to tell everybody, this is so funny. If you did the outside walking, Gail, did you go out and do any walking? You know, and after all of this, like I went out and did some walking, but here's the problem. I would see someone like 200 yards away and I would jockey for position on the road because I didn't know what social etiquette was. Do you go to the right? Do you go to the left? Do you stand up, sit down, fight, fight, fight? I wasn't sure what to do with all my social graces, which I don't have very many anyway. And then I did like the Netflix. Did any of you like do all the Netflix stuff? And I did dark, depressing things like the Ozarks. Did any of you watch the Ozarks? Oh my God, that was like seriously, I was screaming at the television, don't drown the baby, don't drown the baby. And then boom, they blow people's heads off. So I was kind of in a dark funk for a long period of time during this wonderful COVID conversation stuff. And what I've opted to do is kind of like get out of that darkness and hopefully kind of get to a little bit of light. But I do have one thing to say that I loved. March, April, and even now for those of you that are at home teaching, isn't it the coolest thing that you can finally go to the bathroom anytime that you want? This is what every educator has dreamed about, is to be able to go to the bathroom at any time that they wanted. But in March and April, there was no toilet paper. So that's what you call teacher karma, where you finally get an opportunity to go to the bathroom and boom, you can't go. All right, so what I wanted to do today was talk about how do we do that virtual teaching piece. Now, before I do that, congratulations, everyone. We are in our first year of teaching. I don't care if you have taught for 30 years or 5 months. We are all in our first year of teaching. None of us went to college to prepare ourselves for what we are dealing with right now. And I'm going to tell you right here, right now, you are working harder than you have ever worked. And you need to appreciate that and understand that this is not easy for anyone. It is not easy for us as educators, and it is not easy for parents, and it's not easy for our young adolescents. The other thing I want you to know, if any of you are following any parent groups on social media, and they are bashing educators, stop listening to that voice. Stop listening to that voice that is telling us that we are doing a horrible job. We're not. And here's the truth. When people post those things, I'm leaning in because it's time to gossip. They're just lonely, bitter people that need some sweet loving. So next time you see that little, that YouTube clip or that someone angry about teachers, you're just a little bitter, okay? The next thing, got feedback. Are we better? We good? Okay. The next thing is education will change because of all this. Whether we expect it or not, it will change in many, many aspects. And I'll talk about some of that change as well. And here's the saddest part, I think. I think we finally eliminated snow days in the United States. I honestly think that could be the saddest thing from this whole entire pandemic, is with all the virtual teaching now, I don't know if we'll ever have a snow day again. And Judy summed something up. She mentioned the word grace. And one of the things that I think we need to do for young adolescents right now is grace in grading. And I think that's a big piece right now. I was at a school, I'm doing some long-term work here in Oklahoma City with 3 middle schools. And here's this teacher so worried that he needs to be on chapter 6. And I'm like, no, you don't. Right now, we need to have a little grace in grading. We need to understand that, no, our kids are not going to get the content that we expect them to get right now. MoveOn.org. Right now, it's about different things, different connections, and really just what are we trying to teach our kids. So for me, that's kind of what I wanted to tell you. It's just, it is our first year. Let's have some grace. But here's the coolest part. Let's have some fun. And here's what I mean by that. We can finally do some things that we couldn't do before. And by the way, I am not an expert in technology. I'm old school, baby. I think the typewriter is coming back. I can feel it. I can sense it. I know it's going to happen, right? I went to the University of Northern Colorado and I took a class called ET 410. This class taught me how to thread a film projector. Okay, this is my generation, that I was not prepared for all of this technology. I was not prepared for this. And here's the good news. I'm not going to talk to you about the technology. I'm not going to talk to you about I'm going to say a word. How many of you know words in education that just make you want to cough up a fur ball? You know what I'm saying, don't you? Like, remember when we had Common Core? Do you see how it just gets stuck in your throat and makes you want to hurl? Okay, here it comes. I don't care if you're using Google. Do you see how it makes me want to just Google Suite? I don't care if you're using that. I had to be trained on Canvas. I was so confused after that. You got to click here. You got to post this, click that. Ugh. I'm not here to talk about the format. What I am really good at is to talk about what are good lessons. You talk about how's that tie into this, we believe. Everything about middle school is about good teaching and good strategy and student engagement. And here's the other thing. Before this pandemic, did you know that 60% of young adolescents were living in a virtual world? And in that virtual be anyone they want, they could do anything they want, they could hurt anyone they want, say anything they want, or kill anyone they want without regret, remorse, guilt, or consequence. Our young adolescents are in that virtual world. So they're used to this particular thing. For us, we are not. And so again, I'm not an expert in the actual whatever format you use, but I am really good at how do we get kids structure and how do we give them good lessons. This next piece for me is the most important. Working with these schools that I'm at right now, I asked them, they were saying, our kids are not logging on. Our kids are not being there. Our kids aren't paying attention. They're not turning on their cameras. I asked them, I said, do you guys have a schedule for your kids when they're home? And they're like, no, why? And I said, because they're 8th graders. Let's be blunt and honest. If you give an 8th grader no schedule, I'm going to sleep till noon, eat some Cheerios, play some Call of Duty, maybe smoke some weed and go back to bed. These might be possibilities for some of our kids. No structure, no, this is what we need to do. And so here's what I'm gonna tell you. If you don't have a schedule for your kids right now, and I hope Judy, Gail, you guys agree with me on this one, 20-minute blocks. 20-minute blocks to do the content, and then a 10-minute break where I can tweet, text, check my Instagram. 20-minute blocks. We're dealing with young adolescents. If you're in a high school, maybe 30 minutes. If you're in an elementary, maybe 15-minute blocks. You need to break that down. You're thinking about the adolescent brain. And in that schedule, you know what else I'm going to put in there? Opportunities to play. And also put in that schedule a time for them to truly go to their electives, or as I call them, essentials, because I think it's essential that kids take art, band, PE, music, and choir. You build that into their schedule as well in a 20-minute block, 10-minute break. Maybe start the day off with, hey, brush your teeth. That might be a good way to start your day. Get a little deodorant going on. Next is maybe silent reading for 15 minutes. The schedule is so important, okay? It's so important to kind of get kids going and started in this virtual world. We expect it at school, let's expect it in that virtual format. Now, all right, I'm gonna speak the truth right here, right now. I'm past the coddling, right, in education, so I'm gonna speak the truth. How many of you are like me? I don't like recording any lessons because I don't like my voice. I don't like how I look. But see, this is an opportunity for us to embrace our flaws as teachers. When you go to pre-record a lesson, watch, you just lean in and you go, my voice sounds like a squirrel, doesn't it? And when you pre-record some of these lessons, here's the coolest part. You can't hear the young adolescent groan, roll their eyes, say, this is stupid. Those pre-recorded lessons are so critical right now because it gives you an opportunity to be a little funnier than you normally are. And here's the best thing, pray for a zit. Seriously, pray that you get a big old zit, because I know what I would do. I'd lean in and say, hey guys, we got a guest speaker. His name is Oscar. Like, embrace the fact that we have flaws, and middle school kids will love that. They will literally, I ate broccoli. Anything in my teeth today, guys? Any bats in the cave? Literally embrace the flaws that we have and make a joke about it. Because if you know young adolescents, the more you joke about it, the easier it is to deal with it. The next is we can be creative. Gail's got a green screen behind her. We can take kids to anywhere in the world that we want. If you're talking about a topic, if you're talking about a place, a book, a location, you can have that behind you as a great visual stimulant for kids to see. And those aren't things we can necessarily do live in our classroom sometimes. Here's another one. Behind you, go ahead and put maybe like 2 or 3 words behind you. And at the end of that recorded lesson, you can literally say to your students, hey, what words were behind me? And by the way, those are the words that are your vocabulary words. What that does is force our kids to go back, watch that video again. It's manipulation. It sounds like a horrible term, but it's what we do as educators to get kids to learn. So those backgrounds can have various meanings, different things, different situations. And here's the best part. You are no longer confined to 4 walls. Go outside. Videotape some of those lessons outside. When you're talking about flora and fauna or weather, go outside and show them some of those things. What I think the benefit right now of virtual teaching is this: we can do less tell and more show. Less of me telling you something and more of me showing you something. How many of you have ever done that? Hey guys, I was out for a walk. I saw these great cirrus clouds. Get out your phone, videotape it. Show the kids what you saw. That is so important to kind of do that. Here's another one, a great manipulation tool in recording lessons. Use kids' names. And at the end saying, hey, if I mentioned your name and you send me a chat or a message, I'll give you 10,000 bonus points. Okay, this is where, this isn't gonna go well, PAMLE after this, because we learned one thing in March and April. Sometimes grades don't matter. Let's be honest. You know, right now, do they really matter, or is it connecting with your kids and actually getting them to learn something? So again, you heard your name, I'll give you 14 million bonus points. Make it creative, keep it fun. The other is that if you're going to do video teaching and recording, practice it a couple times, get somebody else to look at it, get a critical friend, which is hard for us to do, but it's helpful. All right. Next, anytime that you go to do a lesson, and veteran teachers, here it goes. You're going to love this term. It's one of those, it's a term that makes you want to hurl. Here it comes, because veteran teachers, how long have we heard this? Make sure you put the objective on the board. Do you see how it gets stuck in my throat? Objective, right? Okay, we've been doing that for years on the board. Can you not start the video with, here's your objective, everybody? And here's the best part. I'm about to tell you what materials you need. So pause me, would you please? Would you pause me and go get those materials? And here's the next thing we're learning about young adolescents is please give them a due date. Please give them a due date. You know why? How many of you have had things handed in at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning? That's not developmentally appropriate for middle school kids to be handing stuff in at 4 o'clock in the morning. So what do you say? Here's the objective. Here's what you need, and here's when it's due. Structure. If there's one thing I learned from founding fathers, from Judy, from Gail, all the people that I've been involved with middle level education, is young adolescents crave structure. So how can we provide that for them? All right, so now the part that you're here, and don't worry guys, we'll do questions, we'll do some answering stuff here in a minute. I'm like a chihuahua on speed. Once I get going, hard to get me to stop. But I want to talk about some really cool lessons that you can do virtually or pre-recorded. First is this. I worry about our kids being so insulated. There are kids that maybe have not interacted with other kids live right now. There are families that have been very good at putting themselves in a bunker and a bubble where they only see certain people. How about asking questions virtually that allow kids to survey other people, people in their families, people outside of their homes, friends, anyone that they can text or communicate with? Because right now I think young adolescents need to reach out to other people. So lessons that you can do with any surveys and data, making them to go communicate with others is so key right now for this during this pandemic time. Get them out there chatting with others. All right, love this one. This is one where you do your lesson, you videotape it, and at the end of the lesson, you say to your students, hey, give me the timestamp of when I said these 5 words. Okay, let me repeat that. Go back, give me the timestamp when you heard me say these 5 words. Why am I doing that? One is to make sure kids go back and see that lesson and watch it again. And when they give you the timestamps, you know they actually watched it, listened to it, and actually did what you wanted them to do. And by the way, those 5 words could be your vocab. They could be what you want them to do. It could be an activity, anything you want. Again, manipulating them back to that lesson. All right, I love this one. Record a lesson. At the end of the lesson, say to your students, there were 5 things that were factual and 5 things that were fake. Go back and tell me what was factual and what was fake. Are kids hearing terms like fake news? Are kids hearing things and questioning about what facts and do facts matter? We're educators, facts matter. Or you can record 2 different lessons. One is a factual one and one is a fake one. Tell me which one is real. What an opportunity for kids to go back, because let's be honest, just because the adult says something doesn't mean it's always the truth. So again, how do we take that, manipulate that, and get kids to watch that video? And actually, like I said, go back and say, here's what we know to be true and here's what we know to be fake. What a perfect way to do that. Because you know why? You can't do that live. I'll give you an example. If you did that live, where you were trying to do the fake and fact one, you know, within the first fake thing you said, a little Bonnie Bowhead is going to be like, it's not Eisenhower, you're wrong. So it actually messes up the mojo of your lesson, but having it pre-recorded, they can't interrupt you. So what a great opportunity to do that. All right, this one is so cool. It's about using your environment. You want to talk about middle level education? You want to talk about interdisciplinary? You want to talk about connecting curriculum, which we haven't done in 5 to 7 years because we haven't been able to because of high crap stace testing. I can't even say it out loud. It makes me want to hurl. Watch this. Friend of mine, she's a math teacher. Hold on, sorry. I took up day drinking. All right, I'm better. All right. So a friend of mine, she's a math teacher, and she also works on or lives on a working farm. She taught volume and mass inside of her silo. She recorded herself in the silo talking about volume and mass. There are things that middle school kids ask us all the time. Why do I need to know that? How come I need to know that? That isn't real. She's showing that things are real. And here it comes. You ready? She played 2 musical instruments in there so kids could hear acoustics and talk about sound and sound wave. Oh, this is what middle school is all about. It's about taking those subjects and integrating them. And now using our environment, which you can't do in a classroom. You can't bring in a silo into the classroom, but you can use what you have at your availabilities. This next one working really well for middle school kids. And I'd be curious during the question and answer if any of you have done this. Put a stuffed animal in front of the screen. You stand behind the screen and talk like it's the stuffed animal talking. If you have an obedient dog or an obedient cat, put the dog or cat on the screen and you stand behind and talk. I guarantee you young adolescents will watch that video from start to end if your face isn't the one they're looking at. So again, what a great opportunity to manipulate the setting that you're actually showing kids. What a great opportunity also for you to do some read alouds. Young adolescents, even if they have mutton chops and hairy legs, still like a good read aloud every once in a while. What a great thing to pre-record. So those are a few examples of what I kind of talk about in this workbook about how do we create some lessons that are virtual or pre-recorded to engage our kids. There's also some great connection things on how do you actually pull kids in to make those connections. Middle level education, and by the way, this cracks me up. We're talking about social and emotional learning now, like it's a new thing, like it's something that's brand new. Middle level education has always been about social and emotional learning. It is one of the main pillars of middle level education, but we've moved away from it. We moved away from our advisory, and we moved away from the concept of actually teaching kids about ethics, what's right and wrong, and politeness. And I'm passionate about a lot of things, but I'll tell you this, you're never fired because you're too smart. You're fired because you're not a nice person. And what a great opportunity to teach kids about being good, being a good person, and actually getting back to some of those fundamental things on advisory and teaching our kids about right and wrong and shades of gray. And you can definitely do that virtually in small groups and in small chats. Whew, I was on fire there for a minute. I got to calm down. Finally, just some advice. Try and practice. Do a couple lessons, small ones, short ones. None of these need to be 20 minutes. If you created a video for 20 minutes, you went 10 minutes too long. We're dealing with that adolescent brain, and that adolescent brain is like this. We got to pick up that pace just a little bit more. Next, so we need to be kind. We need to be kind to our students, and we need to be kind to each other as teachers. Because here's the truth. I'm leaning in, so you know I'm going to gossip. Do you know that pre-COVID, 5 to 7% of all faculty, 5 to 7% of their staff were whack-a-damn-doodles? Now it's 25 to 35%. We've got a whole bunch of people that are on the edge of crazy because of what we're dealing with, the pressures and everything that's going on. Show some grace, be kind. And you know what? Now's our chance to share with each other, integrate subject areas. I'll tell you right here, right now, my last advice to all of you is this. If you are blessed to work with another teacher in grade level, let me back up. Let me describe it this way. I worked in a building. There were 3 6th grade language arts teachers. We had 3 different teams. If you're blessed to have a teacher, same grade level, teaching the same subject, go look at your curriculum for next semester. Go look at it now. And then divide and conquer that curriculum and literally say, you know what? These 3 components I love. I am passionate about them more than anything else. I will come up with 3 virtual lessons for our students on this topic. Your colleague comes up with 3, the other colleague comes up with 3. I don't do math, but I think that's 9. I think that's 9 lessons. I'm going to guess that is now 9 lessons that you can present to kids. And who cares if it's not your face that our kids see, as long as it's someone in your building. Because the reality is this, if you are not the face of your curriculum, districts will find somebody else to deliver that curriculum. And that may be harsh and sound horrible, but it's true. I want myself and my colleagues, how many of you are passionate about things that you teach? I'm a geek about the weather, man. I am like a weather geek, but I'm a language arts teacher. If my science teacher said, would you do a unit on, would you do a video lesson on weather? I would geek out, man. I would be so excited. My kids would love it. Great opportunity to show our strengths in regards to our curriculum. Whew, Judy Gale, that was a lot of work for me. I'm gonna have to take a nap. Actually, I'm going to bed. It's past my bedtime. How do you guys want to do some question and answers, feedback? How do you guys want to do this? You're in charge.
Well, Jack, I've got 2 questions for you.
Sure. Now, are they yours, or was it like, did we get a call from Sheboygan?
It's from Sheboygan, actually. How did you know?
We have a caller from Sheboygan.
Yes. This just in. Here we go. Here's the question.
All right.
Kathleen says she has a student with multiple disabilities, and she'd like to know, do you have any suggestions to find a way to engage him with his peers?
Yeah. I'm going to tell me her first name again. It was what?
Kathleen.
Kathleen, I'm going to answer that, but I need to do something first because I totally spaced it out. And that is, you want to talk about something great for special ed students. If I'm the core subject area teacher and I pre-record that lesson, guess who the first person I'm going to share that with in my building? The special ed teacher, because I want them to see it before it goes out to the students so that they can modify, they can adapt, they can figure out how to manipulate and change that curriculum around. You want to talk about advantages. There are so many advantages of recording these lessons. Kids can start and stop them at various times. If a kid's absent, they can watch it when they're gone. What a great opportunity. If you're absent because you're sick, you can pre-record your lesson. Now, for the ones with kids and the socialization, the way to do that is kind of manipulate to say, hey, everybody, I'm doing a lunch bunch where I'm just going to be on during lunch and we're going to talk. And that's where I would encourage for that student to come on during that time, because kids will be eating. And by the way, you'll find out that nuggets and macaroni and cheese rule the world for young adolescents. And so that's what I would do, is get them into that socialization where people are eating, where there is some social awkwardness, but kids could be talking about anything and everything. That's what I would do. I would definitely kind of start with that. I don't know if that helps. I don't know if that's a great idea, but that's where I would start with that social interaction piece.
Can I give an example too of something that I saw a school district do, which I thought was really interesting? They had all of the kids highlight their talents. And in this, there's this one particular boy, I'll never forget him. He was a 7th grader and he had multiple disabilities. He was socially awkward. He lived on a farm, and his talent that he exhibited for this school district talent show was he did a chart and he actually bred a blue chicken. And he brought the chicken in to the school to show the kid, all the other kids, the blue chicken. It sounds so simplistic, but the other kids were so fascinated by this. I mean, it was a royal blue chicken. I was amazed. And all of a sudden, kids started to see him in a different light. He had a talent and a skill that the rest of them didn't have. And because he was able to show it, and he explained about it, and this kid knew all about dominance and recessive genes and all of this stuff. It was really quite something. I was pretty convinced afterwards that he was a gifted student. He just wasn't showing his abilities in the regular curriculum. And it didn't make a profound difference in the relationships, but it opened a crack. Yeah. It opened that door for other kids to ask him questions and say how cool that was.
If you do a schedule with kids, you can say on Tuesday and Thursday, Tuesday is going to be just lunch bunch where we talk, but Thursday's show and tell lunch, where you can literally bring something that you're proud of in your home and talk about it. What a great opportunity to do that. Right now, debate is a big thing for middle school kids. They want a format to kind of get together and actually debate and talk about their feelings, talk about what they're seeing, like you said, on media, social media, and those kinds of things. What a great opportunity for all students to do that, especially the show and tell, things that they are proud of in their home. You will see dogs, you will see all kinds of things that are in their house. And part of that is you have to let go of the judgmental piece. I had a discussion with a teacher recently who was angry because every time the kid turns on the camera, the brother's behind shirtless vaping. Well, you know, we're guests in their home. Let it go. You know, it's an uncontrollable bubble. Gail, do you have other stuff for me?
I absolutely do. And I'm going to ask Annalise, I'm going to allow you to talk if you would like to pose your question directly to Jack.
Nope.
Annalise, ready?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can.
Annalise, how are you?
I am so wonderful. How are you?
Hold on, tell me what you do. What's going on?
I teach 8th grade social studies in Titusville, Pennsylvania.
Awesome.
And my question is this. I'm in charge of 8th grade advisory, and I'm trying to get my colleagues to understand the value of online advisory. And I have modeled myself to death. I need something to help me hit them where it hurts so that they know that this is important. Does that make sense?
Yeah. 2 things. One is that for some people, and I'll be honest with you, I struggled as an advisory teacher. I struggled. And this is back when National Middle School Association, AMLE, those of you on the panel will know it was called Treasure Chest, and it literally had all of these activities. And here I am as a teacher going, do any of you have feelings today? You know, appropriate feelings. You know what I mean? Like, I struggled with it. And part of it is I didn't make it natural. Here's what I would do is survey some of your faculty in the 8th grade and ask the teachers, what are they good at? What do they like? What are things that they're passionate about? You want to teach advisory, get into where the teachers have some passion about something.
Okay.
You know, and now with this virtual world, if you're blessed and lucky to have a colleague that's really good at car maintenance or those kinds of things, imagine them taking that camera outside and working on that car and talking about, this is why I work with a car. I love the idea of machinery. Do any of you like to work with machinery? Do you see what I mean? It's about tying in not only what our students need right now, but ultimately what are the gifts of our teachers. So that would be one thing. In regards to what should you hit them with, you know, look, Annalise, if you hit them with a bat, then see, the problem is you're just too pretty for prison. So you can't do that. All right. So no hitting. But I will tell you, like I said, survey them, see if they have a passion about something and see if that at least gets them started on that. The other thing that I'm seeing is very, very successful is pictures that kids can make memes of, right now about how they're feeling and what they're going through. And they either create their own meme or you put one up on the screen and they put captions around it. I don't know if that helps, but at least it's a couple. And maybe other folks on here have an idea as well.
Well, the beauty of that too, Jack, is that your example of the car maintenance, you're actually integrating advisory, building relationships, and exploration. And exploration is another pillar of an essential middle school program. So, that's what we used to do clubs for. We had clubs where the kids would come in and learn how to do something that they otherwise might not get a chance to learn. So car maintenance, it'll turn on some of the kids. And again, the goal of advisory is to build a relationship where the kids start trusting the adults in the school. So it doesn't have to be an advisory program where every teacher is saying, as Jack said, how are you feeling today? Or, I remember having to build a shield and everybody put in pieces of the shield.
About a coat of arms. It was called Coat of Arms.
It is. It is. That's exactly. And it was from that book.
And it had ILAC. Do you remember ILAC?
It was ILAC, and that's exactly right.
I literally remember when I kept my kids from 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and by 8th grade I'd had enough of them in advisory, and I remember going, ILAC, you guys lack a lot of things. I remember
that. By the way, that stood for I am lovable and capable, y'all. And see, bingo. And we had little fuzzies that we had to rip off a piece every time your ILAC was hurt. So, it was really ridiculous.
Well, and I forgot, my friend who's on the farm, you know what she did for an advisory activity? She showed them how to milk a cow. And she said more kids tuned in than anything she'd ever done. And she talked about how uncomfortable that might make you feel and how, apprehensive you might be at first. So she talked about those key ingredients of good advisory, which is taking risks and trying something new. Genius.
Okay, how about Mrs. Pirelli? You have a question here. If I'm going to unmute you, and would you like to ask your question to Jack?
Sure. Hi. Our district is in a hybrid model. So we're in the classroom. We have half the kids in the classroom and we have half the kids on Zoom at the same time. So do you have any suggestions for engaging when you have them half and half?
Yeah, that's the toughest one. It really is, because like I said, you're Zooming half live. Plus you're doing live teaching. It's what I call double duty right now, where you're trying to engage the kids you have live, but also engage the kids that are via the Zoom. Here's what I have found that works. When you put kids into some groups, or you have kids do some things, which you can still do with some social distancing, I would tell the kids that are via Zoom, is I'm going to come back to you and speak to you guys directly, but give me 2 minutes to go get the class started. They love when you say, I'm coming back to talk to you directly, because what's happening is right now, they just feel like they're an observer in that classroom. Does that make sense? And so anytime you can turn to them and say, hey, those of you in the virtual world, this is what I'm going to do for you. So you kind of make it a little bit special and make it about them, even though they're not in that classroom. Plus, if you can record anything that you're doing now, in regards to that Zoom, hit the record piece. And what's great is when kids are home, even if they were in that lesson that day, they can watch it again when they get home to kind of reiterate what they've kind of learned that day. So what a great opportunity to do that. And are you using Swivel on the iPad to follow you?
No, I don't have Swivel. I have like an extra monitor in the classroom, so I can kind of slide what I'm doing on my computer up to the extra monitor so I can see the kids, so I can like spread it out so I could see all of the kids. And then I'm projecting in the classroom and sharing my screen for the kids at home.
Do you have an opportunity to go live with those kids on the screen, so all of them, the kids, even the kids in the classroom, see them?
Yes, they can join the Zoom. They just can't join with audio, or else we have a lot of feedback.
Right. And maybe that's a great one if you can literally say, hey, Jonathan, in the virtual world, Jonathan, I'm coming to you to answer that question. maybe that'll get them a little more engaged as well. It's tough. Like you said, here's what I tell everybody. There's no right answer this year, and there's no wrong answer this year, which is kind of nice. So I don't know if that helps, but that's the best I can think of off the top of my head right now.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Hang in there.
Okay, Jen Casimir, question for Jack.
Jen.
Hello, Jack. Long time.
Jen, where are you?
I'm south of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, in a suburban school district.
Jen, do you have a good sense of humor?
I have a great sense of humor.
Hey, Jen, have you taken up COVID cussing? Because I have.
Where is this going?
No, that's all. It was like true confession is what I'm trying to say. I'm surprised I haven't cussed so far. All right, Jen, what do you got for me?
I am constantly asked by other teachers as a technology mentor, how long is an appropriate lesson for kids online? And I just wondered, is there a certain research base that you base the 10 minutes on, or is that just something out of your own experience that you've suggested?
Yeah, I mean, the research has been out there for a long, long time on the adolescent brain and how long they can focus. And I'll leave that to Judy on the exact minutes. I'm sure there is some really good stuff out there. The problem is that I really question if it's changed. One of the things I talked about at the AMLE conference is I know what young adolescents look like before COVID. I'm just going to be really curious about what they look like after. And that means everything from function of the brain, everything from social skills, and ultimately attention and attention span. So I think it's going to be a crapshoot, I think, until we get all of our kids back and see what that looks like. I don't know. Judy, you got anything on that?
Yeah, the research shows that kids in general have an attention span about the same as their age. So if you've got a 12-year-old, you've got about 12 minutes. But there are some caveats there, because if they're really interested in something, then of course their attention span can really be expanded. And if they hate what they're doing, you're going to be lucky if you get a minute and a half. So again, with the attention span, if you have those, we used to call them hooks, something where maybe at the 5-minute mark, then you do something different. You switch things around, maybe still on the same topic, but you can actually try to reset their attention span by switching gears. And so, yeah, there is a good bit of research on that. And I do believe I'll have to look this up and get back to you, but there's a really good book by N. Lee Manning called Developmentally Appropriate Middle Level Schools. And she might have that research in there, but I know that it's in a lot of dissertations. It's in mine.
Yeah. And I apologize again, the shameless plug piece inside of me is saying too, you guys, there are 3 ways for this book, for you to get this book. And I tried to make it as easy as possible. One, it's a cheap downloadable that you get individually. The other is if you want the hardcover piece of it, we can mail that to you. And then ultimately, if any of you are school administrators, you can do a download that's for your entire school for one price. So in other words, it's a great little gift to kind of give your teachers and your staff right now as a downloadable PDF. And all that stuff's at jackberkmeyer.com. Here's the coolest part. If any of you tweet anything that you've learned, I'm going to pick 2 or 3 tweets. And of course, you have to put Jay Berkmeyer on there, the tweet. I'll give away a couple free downloads too on this as well.
Jack, I've got another question for you, and this is one that I'm sure many of us have faced. I'm going to ask Heather Uster if she would be kind enough. Heather, if you're with us. Are you there, Heather?
We've lost Heather. She's in a bunker. Heather, if you need help, clap twice.
There she is. She's here.
Okay, I didn't realize that I wasn't here. I'm sorry.
You're all right.
I love how collaborative you are in your thinking. What do you suggest to someone who doesn't work with fellow collaborators?
Oh, easy. I got the best answer ever. You ready for it?
Give them coffee?
No, moveon.org. Because here's the truth. You
Say it
cannot
again, I'm sorry.
You got to move on. You got to move on.org. You got to let it go. Here's the situation we're in right now is that you cannot change an adult unless they wear Depends. And then it's awkward for both of you. And so what I've got this point of now is if you don't want to collaborate with me, what a shame. Because if I can bring 3 or 4 lessons that you can use with your kids, that's 3 or 4 less that you have to record. It's being practical. I'm in this mode now where it's about professionally uncomfortable. And I don't mean that as a negative, but I think it is the opportunity for us to say, hey, you know what? This really is a great opportunity for you to get your strengths in your content area, record some lessons, me get my strengths, and we share that stuff. And if they don't feel comfortable doing that or don't want to do that, you're at least doing it and you're creating some really good stuff with your kids. It's like when I work with teams and they always say, well, we got this one person on our team. And, and I'm like, well, 4 of you are getting along, and stay on. I hope you're still here.
Yeah.
Because but it's hard, isn't it? It's hard to have those uncomfortable conversations. But I think an educator who is wise right now and sees an opportunity to record some lessons collectively. And by the way, if they don't feel comfortable, do them together. What a great opportunity to get your colleague and say, let's do a couple together. So our kids see us working together. You can use it in your class and I use it in my class. At least that might get them at least enticed to try it. I don't know. It's tough. It is so tough.
I like the record together idea. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hey, Jack, we apparently have at least one person who's interested in getting your book and asks, what's the price?
Oh yeah, for the downloadable PDF for individual, it's $20. For the hard copy, it's $27. And then for the downloadable for your entire school, it's $490 for the whole school. So again, all that info is on the jackberkmeyer.com page and all that good stuff. So there you go.
Okay, any other words of advice that you would give to our audience this evening about surviving in this virtual environment?
There are, like I said, there are no right or wrong answers this year. A little grace for yourself, a little grace for our kids. And ultimately, what an opportunity to ham it up a little bit, dress up. All those things in middle school that we remember that were really good practices, you can now do that, like I said, by recording it, and you don't hear their moans and their groans and the rolling of the eyes when you pre-record it, because you're not there to see it. And what a great opportunity to look at your strengths. And ultimately, my goodness, what a great opportunity. We're still doing the best we can for middle school kids, and that's the most important piece.
Another question just came in. What suggestions do you have for an educational assistant? I'm assuming we're talking like a paraprofessional in the classroom. How can they help with things?
Absolutely too. Paraprofessionals, there was always this whole persona like, well, they can't teach a class. Well, yes, they can. Right now, same thing. If you're a paraprofessional and you have a passion about something that relates to the curriculum, I would be reaching out to my paraprofessionals and say, hey, you want to record a couple lessons with me? Do you want to record one on your own? This is truly an opportunity for us to break away from that traditional, I'm the only one that speaks to my kids. I'm the only one they get knowledge from. They get knowledge from everyone in our building. Encourage your principals to do a couple lessons as well. Encourage anyone in the building that's willing to record themselves doing some teaching and build that archive. Paraprofessionals, you are key in some of these things. And again, they could be 2-minute lessons.
Another interesting question. Do you have any particular words of advice for the truly new teacher, somebody who's just entering the profession and this is the world they're coming into?
Yeah, well, they have an advantage because I think they're a little more knowledgeable of technology than some of us are. And so I think they have more comfortability. If you're a younger teacher right now, let's be honest, you know everything about selfies, you know everything about how to use your phone, how to record stuff, embrace it. Absolutely embrace that youthfulness. And, like I always tell everybody when I give a keynote, for young adolescents, you got to know the fads, the fashions, the trends, and the slang. Well, some of you younger folks, you know all of those things and you know how to reference those things a little easier than some of us that are seasoned. We're not old, we're seasoned. So absolutely, what a great opportunity to come into education because the virtual teaching is not going away after this pandemic. There's still going to be aspects of virtual teaching in our curriculum, professional development days, snow days, you name it, there'll be opportunities for virtual teaching.
I would say too, pick everybody's brain. I mean, people who have been teaching for a while, what did you learn? What what do I need to know? What's in your filing cabinet that I might be able to duplicate so that I don't have to come up with a new lesson plan every time?
Mhm.
So sharing stuff with other people. And I would say, since I'm the founders person here, make sure that you really understand the needs and characteristics of middle level kids. If you haven't had a course on that or haven't done any reading on it, you can't meet their needs if you don't know what their characteristics are. So Tyler, can you unmute Tyler, Gail?
Yep.
Tyler, were you here at the last webinar?
Yes, I was.
Okay, so you remember the whole thing about the ossification of the epiphyseal tissue, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so for those of you who weren't on the last one, when young adolescents, the epiphyseal tissue, which is connecting tissue, starts to ossify or turn to bone. And in this case, it's in the back, the bottom of the spine. So it becomes uncomfortable for kids to sit on hard chairs for long periods of time. So they tend to lean back in their chairs. You know, we just say, you know, sit up. I mean, I was going to tape record it, sit up, sit up, sit up, sit up, sit up, until I found out that it was a developmental characteristic. I could tell them to sit up forever, but if they're uncomfortable when they're sitting there, think about how you all feel during an in-service time. By the end of the day, you know, you're done. So if you understand those characteristics, the eyeball starts growing unevenly. So they might not be able to see something that's projected onto a whiteboard, and it might happen quickly. So all of these physical, social, emotional characteristics are so key to understanding some of the kids' behaviors, which really helps teachers to be patient with them. Like, oh, that's why they're doing okay. Then I have to change what I'm doing, because Tyler, I think we all understand here. I think everybody here probably does, because that's why you're here. You want to be really good teachers. That we have to understand that it is the kids' classroom. It's not our classroom.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to bend what we know to help them to be successful. I hope that makes sense. So study those characteristics and ask the kids, oh my gosh, if you just say to them, you know, what are you talented at? What do you want to learn? What's most important to you? The answers to those questions will just blow your mind. You can set a whole curriculum according to their answers. So when I was working with student teachers, when they would get into the classroom, that's what they did first. They put out a little survey. What do you want to learn? What's most important to you? And that way you get to know the kids a little bit more, and you can kind of twist it around. So for example, I had a student teacher in English. She was an English teacher. Had a kid who was just not into English at all. And she found out that he just loved Chevy, is it a Chevy Camaro? What's a Camaro? Anyway, he loved Camaros. So she brought in all of these magazines that were about Camaros and said, all right, in our poetry unit, you know, you got to write about cars. And it's really interesting. Now the kid ended up going to prison, but he wrote her a really nice note while he was there. So he did end up liking English, but he wasn't all that successful in life.
And I think some of the things that we've mentioned here really are a follow-up to another observation that Tyler made about establishing and making connections with students that perhaps you've only seen them through the screen. And I think if you've listened to some of the things that Jack has shared and Judy has mentioned, it is that relationship piece that is really central to the whole thing. That if you cannot establish that relationship with the kids, they're not really going to care about what it is you're trying to teach them.
You know, Gail, I apologize because I know I just cut you off. A lot of our
Not
kids,
the first time, it won't be the last.
Sorry, some of their best friends are middle school kids. They've never met them. You know, in that virtual world that they were in, they had tons of friends that they never met face to face, ever. Sorry, it just popped into my head.
No, but that's absolutely true. But think about the ways that you can capitalize on those student interests, that maybe you set aside 10 minutes that is essentially the old show and tell, and have the kids bring their pet or bring their hobby or bring whatever, and you start to find out what it is that they're interested in. Or do a little, if you go to solutiontree.com, there are some surveys there that you can find that are great in kind of taking an inventory of student interest and needs. So there are lots of resources out there to kind of help you along the way to begin to establish those relationships. It's kind, I almost envision it as like the old days when, you know, you got that pen pal from a foreign country and you never really saw them in person, but you managed to establish that relationship through your form of communication, which in those days was letters. But whatever it is that you're doing to be able to create that communication relationship piece really is essential to having kids survive and thrive in the middle level. Any other questions that we've got from our audience? There have been some great discussion and some great ideas and things that you have shared and information that Jack has shared with you that is really going to be, I think, be helpful to you as you try to survive whatever the rest of this school year has in store for all of us.
There was one about stress, just real quick.
Well, and we can let people go if they want to and hang around for more questions, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's so funny because, you know, we started with like 100 people and there's still 93 here. Thank you all very much. That's impressive.
Yes.
Very impressive. The workbook I talk about, like you go back to that schedule on your calendar to say, I'm doing show and tell for lunch this day, sit and chat, debate. Stretch and learn is really a good one for the stress and anxiety kind of thing, where you're just getting kids to kind of stretch while you're talking about something and learn. And again, you can pre-record that while you're doing that and tell them, mimic all my movements while I'm talking. Simple little things to kind of get that brain to kind of shut down a little bit.
Any other questions that we've got out there? Okay, seeing or hearing none, I'm going to now pass this over to Bruce.
So hi, my name's
As
Bruce
he-
Vosberg. I'm the president of PAMLE, and I want to thank everyone for attending tonight. I also want to thank Jack Berkmeyer for providing a lot of knowledge about virtual teaching. And, you know, he's got a lot of resources on his website, so check that out as well. And Judy Brew, who's our expert on our founding fathers, we want to thank her. And Gail always does a great job as our putting this all together for us and being our speaker through all of this. So I do want to thank you. And I also want to thank our sponsor, Eastern University, who sponsors this webinar for us. We're using their webinar link for this. And I do want to remind everyone that for Act 48 credit, you're going to need to complete the evaluation. It'll be on the website. You'll be able to complete that and send that back in to get that. And reminder about our virtual conference coming up on the 27th and 28th. I did put that in a text. Check out PAMLE.org for all the information on that conference. And we're going to have a great conference with that. And I know that December 9th, we're going to have Gail and Linda Hopping, and Judy, I guess, is going to join us for that. And we're going to be talking about the understanding and implementing the successful middle school. And if you haven't read that book, even if you haven't read one of the older copies of that book, get it and read those, because it's a great resource as you look at what's best for middle level education. So, you know, I want to thank you all so much again for being a part of this. And we hope to see many of you back here in December. So thank you so much. Jack, again, thanks for your expertise.
Thank you, everybody. And that successfully concludes tonight's webinar. If you do have some questions, you want to hang around, I think Jack will be here with us for a little bit of time if we've got some more things that you want to ask Jack.
You're still muted, Judy. Maybe she's.
I said it's still early for you, and you haven't finished your mimosa. So.
So Jack, I listened to you at the AMLE, your session at AMLE on teaming. I always learn something new whenever I see that. That's great. And I've been doing it for so long. It's always good to hear it.
You know, I think it's the first time in my life that I've had an opportunity to just stop and reflect and not go, and actually do some professional development for myself.
Yeah.
And so
It's good.
All right,
It was good.
there's a question in Q&A.
Yeah,
So
and,
you already got that.
and that's the one that dealt with stress and anxiety,
yeah,
and Jack did mention. But I want to follow up on that for just a moment if I can, because I believe Meg said that she is either a paraprofessional or instructional assistant or something. And I would encourage you as classroom teachers, if you're working with those types of support individuals, capitalize on the strengths and interests that they bring to the table as well, because they can be really valuable partners with what you're doing in the classroom. And they may also be the ones that can help establish some relationships with kids, that maybe they take one or two kids under their wing and kind of serve as their advocate or their mentor. So, but certainly giving them techniques to deal with stress and anxiety, really critical, particularly now. You might want to do that for the big
I'm
people
mad at
too.
myself because for some reason I lost the card that had all the benefits of why to pre-record some of these lessons. And that one was the special ed, where if you pre-record it, special ed teachers can preview it, modify and adapt. What a great opportunity to give to paraprofessionals. And then, like I said, if you're out sick, it's great if, for a lesson plan, because some of our subs don't really know the content, and so you can just kind of show yourself and still be there, even though you're virtually and stuff. But I'm so mad. I have to go find that page now. I know it's somewhere.
We were at a school virtually last week with Schools to Watch, and they had two people in the classroom. One of the persons was concentrating on the virtual while the other was teaching live.
Yes.
So they were able to interact, and they were able to keep that interaction going with the second adult in the room, which was really good.
I think the piece for me that just like hit me like a brick was less tell, more show. Because I think we got into that mode of, I've got to teach you the curriculum. I got to tell you about this curriculum. I got to tell you that. No, you don't. You know what I mean? You can show kids far more with less words than what you need to say, and I think, but again, that wasn't my training as a teacher. Like, that isn't my mindset. I am the one that you're going to get the knowledge from. And the other benefit, and like I said, I'm so mad at myself. If you pre-record some of these lessons, you can show that lesson to a group of kids and take some kids that that are going to struggle with that concept and work with it aside.
Absolutely.
What a great opportunity to break kids into smaller groups, which helps with social distancing and all that stuff that's going on. So
I was on your webinar when you did that webinar with Monica Genta, which was really good. And you talked a lot about movement and getting up and moving. She was very entertaining.
That. She'd be a great one for your series too at some point in time. And she's one that I'm trying to, get into that. Not only she got good practice, but put it and align it with and she's a middle school current teacher too. So
yeah, that's very true. Yeah. Donna Farrow, are you still here? You with us?
No. Oh, she might be. She's still listed.
You have a question?
Donna? If you want to unmute.
Yes, I'm here.
You had a question? Yes.
Yes.
You had a
I'm here.
question?
I'm not sure where to find the questionnaire for getting credit.
It
Hello?
will be sent to you.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So
Because I
if
had
you
trouble
said,
clicking on the link on my computer, so I had to do this.
okay. And was that successful for you?
It was with my phone, but not from the computer email that I got.
Okay, I wonder why that happened. So we're still trying to work out all the bugs with that whole piece.
Absolutely, no problem.
But we really appreciate you telling us that as well.
Yeah, okay, so you'll email me that and I'll be able to fill it out.
You bet.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Donna.
Very informative tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
You want Natasha to stop recording?
Yes.
All right. I think